Well, hello there everybody, my name is Mikey and welcome back for another tutorial. Yeah, I said it. Okay, today we are going to be covering what is one of the most core basic things often discussed when it comes to designing characters and designing the scale and size of characters, and that is head heights. How many heads high should you be making your characters? And we'll talk a little bit about how that affects scale and proportion, and also how it's kind of used to denote ages sometimes as well. So what I'm just doing here, if I can get this line to be even, 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters, yeah, it's even enough, is I'm just cracking straight on. I'm going to draw some guidelines right across this sketchbook page. This is just a standard A4 sheet. God, is that even? Yes, it is. I'm looking at it at a really weird angle, everybody, so that my head's not kind of literally in frame of the camera. And I'm going to grab this and I'm going to mark down a line every, how many are going to fit in? Every 3 centimeters. So once we get this out of the way, then we'll actually crack on and start explaining things. But I should say, hello there, everybody at home. Grab yourself a cheap pencil, a rubber if you need it, a cup of tea, that often helps, and obviously a ruler with your paper. If you're using just standard printer paper, because that's all you've got, that's totally fine. But lay down a handful of sheets of paper so that you're working on a soft surface instead of just on a hard desk. Now, the reason why we're drawing these guidelines is that we are going to be cracking on and dividing this page into 8 sections. And I'm just going to measure the exact same thing down this side, obviously, so that we can get it even. Now, when it comes to designing your anime characters, and you might have seen in some other videos, when I do a full scale character, not a full size one, but a full to scale one, head to toe, I will often measure out that character as to how many heads high they are. Right now on screen, there'll be a link to another video I've done where I talk about drawing characters from start to finish in terms of their body sizes. And we talk very briefly about head heights in that one as well. In this episode, we're going to be really comparative and we're going to talk about a character that might be, say, a bit younger and a bit shorter. How do you work out the length of the body, the length of the legs versus how big their head is? A character who's going to be maybe sort of just coming of age sort of thing, like a mid to late teenager. And then we'll do like a fully developed, really tall character, all sorts of curves and shapes as well. And that will give us a quick opportunity to talk about the different ways we accentuate curves and body style on characters of different ages, because some it's more appropriate than others. Now, lovely, we finally got there. Let's line up this sheet of paper on the camera phone. And it doesn't have to be uber clear, but hopefully you guys can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. Now what I'm going to do is right on the left hand side, I'm going to dive straight in and I'm going to draw the basic framework of a character that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have to count, 6 heads high. Okay, so if we go over here and then start off with our basic head shape, so that's going to be a circle of sorts. I'm going to hope that this comes up fairly clearly on the camera phone, so I'm going to do it fairly dark. And then I'm just going to come down on the outside edges of the circular shape, turn it into a head, around about that. Lovely. And then I'm just going to give myself a center line. And I know that however this character is, the feet are going to end up around about this bottom line here. Let's just bring this a bit more central just because we can. Double check it's all in focus. Lovely. And when it comes to drawing a character, once you've got their head in, you've got the rest of their body, neck and legs to worry about. Now what I like to do is take the top 3 heads of the character, will take you roughly to where the hip bones are. So here's one head already. The second head and then the third head means that around about here is going to be the halfway point. I'm going to have the body of the character in this space and the legs and feet of the character in this space. So what we can do is we can drop down a bit of a neck firstly, because we're not going to have a head sitting right on top of the chest. I like to draw in a quick line that indicates where the shoulders are, and then a quick line that indicates where the hips are. And then I allow that to be my first building block for a chest, which is going to be a fairly simple kind of ovoid shape around about here, and so. And I'm not going to make it too super curvy because we're drawing like a more of a school child character on this side. And when it comes to the younger characters, even if they're girls, they basically have a very similar body shape to boys. They're fairly indistinguishable. Not many curves get generated. So if anything, they all look the same. You can tell I don't have children. They all look the same to me, girls and boys. Basically, you're not a person till you're old enough to buy me a pint at a pub. Nah, I'm just kidding. You're all people. So if we get some hips on there, bring that in like so. You'll notice what I'm doing is fairly simple. We've got a chest shape, ovoid circle, some lines that come down and really just bring in a stomach area. You can imagine that stomach area being another ball if you wanted it to. And then when it comes to the hips, we've got another big oval that comes out strong here, and then a nice flat curve off the underside of this middle hip line. So with that in mind, now that we've got the main part of the body in place, we get to just dive in and think about the legs. Now I'm going to draw a line that comes in a little bit. We might as well have a little bit of motion, try to keep it interesting. So let's have a character that's kind of in step. And with this leg point, with this whole zone here, if you imagine halfway is about here, I'm going to go above the halfway mark, and this is going to be roughly where I'm going to put my knee circles, just underneath the first headline of space that we've got here. Because the legs are going to stop off around about halfway here, halfway in this bottom head segment, and that's going to be where our feet are. So I'm just going to draw in some shapes to make the legs. And again, fortunately, what I don't have to do in this tutorial is get into too much detail about every single shape that I'm drawing, because we've got separate tutorials on how to draw legs. Probably, if I get this right, there'll be a little icon on screen telling you about that video. Separate tutorial all about torsos. We've already sort of linked to that before. And separate tutorials about all the different body parts. So this is an opportunity to take all of those different tutorials, and then now that you know about the different shapes that make up the figure, we can dive in and talk about how big these shapes should be in relation to each other. And that's the whole point of proportions. In fact, really quick sidebar. Here's something I made earlier. Yes, I drew a square and then drew a rectangle. I'm that good. So here is a square, and as you can see, this rectangle is twice the height of the square. Okay? Now, what I'm saying there is that these two objects, in proportion to each other, this one is twice as tall. Now, the height is something different, so you do need to understand the difference between the two, because I'll probably talk about one or the other a lot. This can be 1 centimetre tall, which means this is going to be 2 centimetre tall. So the height doesn't matter, the proportion is the same. So if I said that actually this square is 1 mile, like if you imagine this is a supermassive square and we're seeing it from space or something, if I said this is 1 mile tall, then this one would be 2 miles tall. The proportions are still the same, even if we don't have to worry about the height. Enough of that! It's not a trigonometry lesson, so hopefully that's all the schooling you'll have to get. So let's just drop down here. Cheeky ankle. All on camera still? Yes. And then I'll have like a walking motion. So we'll have a foot shape there. And then on this leg will be coming a bit further back as it's stepping in. So this leg will kind of come out and then drop down in. And then a foot shape var. Something like that. And then over back up here where we like to keep the chest top area. So I'm going to put a shoulder circle here. Shoulder circle here. Like so. And then I might just have a standard hand on hip pose on this side. And then a hand down by the side because it's kind of a walking motion, so it'll stick out a bit. So if I just say an arm there, like so, and comes in here. Again, you'll notice I'm not worrying about the shape of the figure too much. I've just a hand shape in there because I just want to get you to understand the body proportions. And down there. And as ever, you guys, whilst I'm drawing this in, I hope you are able to follow along at home. Click like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click subscribe. Get just below that video and press that button, and that way you'll be up to date with all the tutorials in the future. So, if I have another check through the camera phone, lovely. I'm going to squeeze in 2 more characters on here. So, it's not just about height here. It's about the proportion. With a character of a head of this big and a body about that size, This is more of a child, an older child, certainly, maybe, I don't know, turning 14, 13. I don't know about ages. But basically, this is more of a child's relationship of a figure, the head to the body. So when it comes to drawing maybe like the cuter characters, like they're now young adults, turning into women, we're just going to step it up again. I'm going to go from 5 heads to a character that's 6 heads tall. And then we're going to see how, although we've only changed it by 1 head, it completely changes the relationship of the proportions and how you view the character. So around about the middle of the page, I'm going to draw another head in. Again, nice and quick, nice and rough. There won't be any masterpieces this episode, so do bear with. Get that head shape in. Actually, let's on this one, some eyes maybe down there, around about that zone. Fill that in later. And then it's around about here on this one. Cool. And then now that I've got the rest of this space, again, I'm going to devote around about half of it to being the top half of the body and the other half to being the bottom half. So we've got 1 head, 1, 2, and this time it's going to be about 2.5. And then on this side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, sorry. I've confused myself there. Basically, what I'm saying is that on this character, we're going to go halfway for this torso zone. We've got 1, 2, 3.5 heads about, and then 1, 2, 3.5 heads about. So if I have the hips around about here in the middle, that's how we're going to divide it up. So again, I'll drop a neckline in somewhere around here. Shoulders, hip line's already in. And then we're just going to slightly lengthen some of these. Now, because this character's a bit older, I'm going to make them slightly wider as well. Because this is a character that's gone through puberty. This character's actually going to have curves and hips. And it's going to be just a fraction more feminine than this one is just a child with no real gender about it. So if I get that up there, bring the hips in nice and wide up here. And then that allows me just to kind of say, right, the body shape's going to mostly be here and here like so. Again, I'm just using different curved shapes to help build up sections of the body, the outer thighs versus the hip bones and all of that. Center line's going to be a little bit of an angle, and again, that allows me to work out where everything stops and the legs begin. So again, with this part, we've got all of this space here dedicated now to the legs. And again, it's going to be around about this just above halfway mark. So I'm going to pop some knees in around about this point where my pencil is at the moment. So again, if we have another kind of walking, stepping character, very barely, step something like that. So we'll pop knee in around about there. And again, these circles are a little bit bigger because the leg's going to be more fleshed out on this character, a little bit wider. So if I give a bit of a thigh that comes out like that, lovely, then up and in like so. And then same on this side, we'll have the leg coming up and in like so, the thigh, a bit more of a curve down this side. And then continuing on, let's get the bottom parts of the legs in as well. So we've got a nice little leg shape, bit of shin bone in. Again, just going to drop in a shape to indicate the foot on that side and drop in on this side. Now, I'm trying to keep this as quick as I can because every tutorial we do always ends up being longer than I think it's going to be. So this is hopefully just going to be really to the point for you guys. Different proportions and sizes. Let's just get this on like so, and then we'll grab some shoulders as well. So hopefully you'll be able to use this as a bit of a guideline, if anything, for your own work. Let's go, let's go hands up, hand behind head. Why not? One can just go back here. So we'll drop elbow circle, join it up like that. And then we just get to cheat there and just hide that whole hand behind the back of the head or something. On this side, we'll still drop the arm down, just so you can compare it to this one. If we just go down like so, and a hanging arm will go from the shoulder to around about where the hips are, and the hand itself will drop down below the bottom line of where the bum would be, around the hips. So that's how you kind of get to understand how long roughly a character's arm might be. It's going to be something like this, naturally hanging down, straight off the shoulder, about halfway through where the tummy is, the bottom of the rib cage would be the elbow, and then further down to the hips. But this is really simple. You can just look at yourself in a full-sized mirror and just relax and see your own body, where all the proportions go if you just sort of stand there and relax. It's very useful stuff, regardless of your gender. Okay, so this character as well, because she's older, she's actually going to have a chest. So, being manga and anime, we might as well just go a little bit silly. Why the fun not? It's just going to go around about here, like so. Something like that. And then around about here, like so. Something like that. And these kind of teardrop shapes we're sort of working on. Again, these have been also covered in other tutorials. So, you can see already the difference. If I just again have a check through the camera phone, do my best to make sure it's in focus. Nothing buggers me more than, excuse my language, than things being out of focus. So, here we've got like a child's frame. You can see that a lot of it is actually head. And even if we just make it one head taller as a character and change the relationship to the figure, all of a sudden you're now talking about an adult. So, what if we make it 8 heads tall? This is the very common size that's given out by a lot of Western comic book styles for heroines and superhero figures. And what it's going to mean is that you've got a very developed character. So in the anime and manga style, if I'm going to make this character 8 heads tall, this tends to be for characters, we might as well put them at a bit of an angle or try to make a picture out of this one. This tends to be for characters who are, say, like that supermassive dominatrix strict type, or it could be characters who are really, really leggy, or characters who are like Amazonian characters, like they're just naturally massive. Once you go 9 heads and above, because you're drawing so far out of proportion, it really means that you can just start drawing really crazily shaped characters. If you're going to do 9 heads or more, you're basically saying this character has a tiny head and a massive body. In which case, don't worry about proportion anymore. Just draw artistically whatever you want, because you're already going crazy. Think of some of the bad guys from Fist of the North Star, stuff like that. You've got some really crazy shapes and proportions there. So, this is going to be a super tall female character. We're talking about the real big game here. Now, at this height, again, I'm just looking down roughly to this halfway point, and I'm going to tell myself the hips are going to be around about here. So this is going to be a very leggy character. So it means you've got 1, 2, 3, almost 4 before I'm going to get the hips in, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 for the legs, and so on, and feet. So in this instance, again, I get to be, unlike this one, where we're doing lots of fairly straight lines for an undeveloped, bony, essentially child's body. On this character, I'm going to be using lots of curves instead. It's going to give a completely different aesthetic and a completely different feel. And part of that is that I'm going to draw the character facing slightly off center, and it means that I can play around with the weight of this character's pose to accentuate the curves, if anything. So this is going to have a bit more of a lean. If I say that the hips are around about here, then I get to kind of put a whole circle in round about this space like so. And then on this side, I'm going to join it up in a very thin manner. So let's say that I've got a bit of stomach there, and then maybe just a little bit here. It means that this character has got all sorts of hip bones sticking out here, and all sorts of kind of leg shape that's going to be following something like this. Lovely. Now for legs, I'm just going to draw something that's going to have a bit of a stance to it this time. So standing in. And the reason why it's very useful to start with the top down is because it helps you not only work out how tall the head is, but when it comes to a pose, it helps you understand the weight. If I start with the bottom of the feet, I might end up drawing the top a little bit off to the side, and it's going to have a very uneven weight to the character. How are we doing for time? Fine. So in this instance, we're going to get a good start by working out where the weight is, where things kind of push out and then come back in. So on this side, again, the knees for me are going to be much higher up now. This is much more of a leggy character, maybe even in heels or something, standing up. We'll think about it in a moment. So let's get this leg in here like so. coming up towards the center line there and becoming like quite a thigh or leggy shape up there. And then down on this side, we're going to come out, a nice bit of calf muscle, back into where you can have some ankle. And then on this side, it's mostly shin bone for the inside, but still you get the same idea. And then, yeah, we're going to have a foot that's really kind of pointing down on some kind of heel situation. So only the toes are actually going forward on this one. The whole rest of the foot somehow is like that. And then on this side, let's have this leg kind of at slightly jaunty, kind of coming in angle. So we'll go up here, still out on there, still up round here. And then this time it's going to start to face, or have the knee face almost slightly inward, like you get with some of those off-kilter stances sometimes. Knees go slightly in, which means we can go out with the calf muscle again on this side, just using this shin line as my guide. And then on this side, it's a little less sticking out. It's a bit more of a bone again on the inside edge to an ankle joint. And then again, we'll have foot slightly turned into the other one. Again, giving that sort of high-heeled kind of feeling about it. Something like so. So straight back up here. Here we've got a center line for the face. Here we're going to have our shoulder circles. 1 and 2. And then on this character, maybe just this arm's just going to drop down behind. So I'm just going to go round about here for this arm. I'm going to bring it down around about there. It means this character's hand is going to sit about there. This arm is hidden behind the rest of the body. And because we're doing such a salaciously hippie, curvy character, in this instance, we're going to just get to go sort of full anime, if anything, and just draw some really big circles in there. Just like so. Excellent. And then coming down off this side of the chest, just like so. Something like that. Okay, great. And then we'll have our stomach in there somewhere. There's a little belly button. Somewhere around here on you. And somewhere around here on you. So let's see. If I just outline this a little bit more, hopefully it's going to show nice and clearly. And I hope you guys have been able to follow along at home. I've tried to sketch these out very roughly and very quickly. But as long as you know that, we're not trying to make masterpieces, I hope you'll forgive me. Let's just get some outside edge on this character as well. Might not be perfect, but again, if you followed the other tutorials, and do click on the information icon in the top right, or the details in the description below, because I've got a link to all of the tutorials that I do. Boom. Hopefully this gives you an idea. Yes, it does. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. We've got ourselves a bit of a nice comparison chart here. Simply by going from 5 heads tall to 6 heads tall, you've got a big difference. Wait, simply going from 6 heads... I've just woken up, by the way, everybody. This tutorial is first thing in the morning, so thanks for bearing with. Just going from 6 head tall to 7, you've got an immediate difference in scale, appearance, age, development, and everything. And if you go from 7 to 8, the difference again is massive. So just these very slight shifts in the relationship of proportions has a really big effect on your character design. So I recommend play around with it. If you've designed a character, what if you made that character taller? What if you made that character shorter? And if you're trying to copy out art and build up your technical skill when you look at other pictures, you should start thinking, have I drawn that too tall? Have I drawn that too short? Are the arms really long or short compared to the legs? Is the chest area and stomach really short? Or have I made the legs too short and the body too long? A lot of things that you need to think about. Oh, text message in the background. So do remember, some people just have bigger heads than others in real life. So changing the head height isn't strictly going to change the height of the character, but you do need to be aware of the measurements. I mean, I'm very aware of this now. I have an extra large head apparently whenever I get a new motorcycle helmet, as much as I'd love to have just a large one. Apparently I have an excellently large brain. That's how I'm going to remember it. So bear that in mind with your characters. And again, most importantly, have fun. So I've talked about the head heights, and I've talked about the relationship of where the upper half of the body is compared to the lower half. But I don't want you to start doing your art and think it's just like trigonometry homework or something. It shouldn't feel like a load of hard work. This is just a guide, be aware of it, but draw whatever you want and draw it in your own style. So what I'm going to do is drop into time-lapse like usual, and I'm probably going to go off and refill my cup of tea. Then I'm going to hopefully draw a character on each one of these just for the fun of it, and I'll see you guys right at the end.
Mikey Maker Mega, teaching you to draw good. Mikey Maker Mega, teaching you right. Mikey Maker Mega, this time it's proportions. Mikey Maker Mega, we've learned head height.
Thanks for watching this video, you lovely people at home, yeah, that's you. I hope you've learned to draw at least a little bit better than you already do. And I also want you to know that Mikey's just really, really handsome. Mikey Maker Mega, now he's on the middle go, now he's doing curvy girl on the right. Mikey Maker Mega, bloody loves drawing, keeping up his A game all damn night. I hope that you love drawing, cause that's totally my vibe. And if you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe.
Excelsior, Excelsior. The 12's full of all my love and it's pooling on the floor.
And so there you have it. Welcome back. So I've moved my lamp a little bit off camera so that hopefully it's not too glaringly white around here. But as you can see, we just dropped a young schoolgirl uniform and look onto this character. I went online during the time lapse just to get some reference pictures, and I found a character that seemed quite standard middle-agey. I don't know about fashion, but kind of wearing some kind of lab coat, I think, in this example. And then this character, I was going to draw standard clothing as well. And then I thought, nah, I like it so much that it's so extreme and different and curvier than the others. I just went with some kind of generic made-up futuristic space suit of some sort. But I think it just about works because it really accentuates all the curving lines, which we can kind of talk about in detail in another tutorial. I hope you found this useful, you lovely people. I hope you're going to use head heights to help you understand your characters. Oh, and if you're designing loads of characters yourselves at home, like page after page, why not draw a picture where they're all standing together? Work out how big they are compared to each other. What are their different heights? It will really help you out. Okay, guys, there we go. Another tutorial down. And don't forget, guys, if you're drawing at home, you can always submit your art to me on my Facebook page. Link in the description below. Check out this example of Lego Batman from a young man called Dylan who's only 9. So what's your excuse? I'm really excited about the Lego movie. Keep up the good work, young sir. And I'll see you guys next time around.